All right, all right. Welcome to Reality Check Founder Series, where we sit down with the builders, founders, and teams shaping the future of Web3. The goal is very simple. Go deeper than the headline, past the hype, and into what is actually being built, why it matters, and what the market should be paying attention to. Today, we're going to be joined by Wire Network, a layer one building toward a universal transaction layer designed to simplify how apps, users, and assets interact across chain. But before we get started, I want you guys to please go visit Reality Check's website, rcweb3.xyz, you'll find our latest content, social links, guest features, everything that we are building in one place. Also, make sure you sign up for the Checkpoint newsletter. This is going to keep you up to date on all the biggest news stories happening across the NFTs, crypto markets, everything in general. So let's get right to it. We are going to bring up Ken. What's up, bro? How we doing? GM.
Hey, how are you doing, man? Thanks for
Doing
bringing
pretty
me
good.
on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, excited for this one. Because this seems to be like a massive problem in the space. Everybody's flopping from one chain to the next. There's so many bridges. There's so many chains. Like everybody thinks they need a new L1 or an L2 or, and it's really wild. And it makes the space too complex, for new users. And I'm really excited to dive in what Wire Networks actually looking to do and help the space with. But before we dive into that, can you kind of give the listeners and viewers a little bit of background on who you are?
Yeah, for sure. So I come from traditional finance, went to school for finance. I was trading silver, gold, and oil futures in the mid 2000s on the traditional side. That got me into Bitcoin in early 2013. I finally got exposed, and I'm like, this makes complete sense because I was taking my profits and I was just buying physical silver and gold and platinum off my trading strategies. And then I found Bitcoin. I'm like, this makes complete sense. It's just a digital version of the same asset class that I already love. I don't know what horse is going to win or be faster. So why don't I just add that into the mix and see how it plays out? We obviously see how it plays out. I think my first Bitcoin was like, it was low. It was very low.
Yeah. If it was 2030, it's less than $100, right? Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. That's amazing. And those are the stories that I love to hear. My first exposure to Bitcoin was just, through Google and whatever, but then my brother asking me and my two other brothers for $10,000 each so he could start mining Bitcoin out of his garage. And we were like, no, you're crazy, man. We're not doing that. And because, like the 2 nights before, he's telling us that he's seen Bigfoot in his backyard. And it's like, no, we're not giving you $30,000 to put into Bitcoin. And man, I sure wished I had because I love the space. And so that's really cool. So through your traditional finance background and experience, and now being in crypto and Bitcoin since 2013, what were these frustrations and the observations you made that said Wire needs to exist? Like, why Wire?
Yeah, well, that actually was the path. So, I was in, and then, Ethereum came along. There was others before Ethereum, right? There was Namecoin. I could go through the list of the early coins, and then then Ethereum came. It's like, cool, smart contracts, great development, and then all the other L1s and L2s came along, and it got to, and I was developing, I was creating products at that point, on top of these chains, and I was dealing with the same thing, like liquidity, fragmentation, just early infrastructure problems. Like the industry was brand new.
Yeah.
And it got to 2020 and I kept hearing we're the future of finance. And I'm like, I came from that world and we have an infrastructure problem. Like I'm dealing with it. And so then I was like, aha, like we just have to create the infrastructure that allows us to be the future of finance, which we were always going to be. It was just how fast we were going to get there and what problems needed solved. And I realized that there's millions of users and billions in liquidity on all these little islands, the island of Ethereum, the island of Solana, the island of Cardano, Hedera, Polkadot, you name it. And that's not how the traditional system works. You're able to buy from your Robinhood account or your E-Trade or your Schwab, you name it. You can buy whatever stock you want. That stock lives somewhere, just like Chainlink lives on Ethereum as an ERC20. Tesla lives on the NASDAQ. Nissan lives on the Japanese stock market where it IPO'd. BMW lives on the German stock market where it IPO'd. These all have homes, and yet from one wallet, you're able to buy whatever you want, and it routes and brings it back to you, right? You couldn't do that in our industry. Like you, from your MetaMask, you couldn't go buy a Polkadot asset. You couldn't go buy a Cardano asset. You couldn't do that transaction. And I was like, if we're going to be the future of finance, we need to unify the user base and the liquidity in a trustless, decentralized way. Like Binance is a universal exchange. It's just centralized, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Our world, like the whole reason for Web3 is trustless, decentralized infrastructure and finance. And so I was like, we have to be the purists here, because that's how you actually solve the problem, is the pure way. How do we have a universal framework that allows any type of blockchain, any type of user, any type of wallet to interact with each other? And then we can be the future of finance, like the goal was in the beginning.
So take me back. So like when you guys were looking at this, like why be a layer one? Because you're like, in one breath, you're saying, well, there's too many chains, we need to bring it together. You're a layer one. Why not that just instead of another bridge, like a middleware layer or an app chain framework or something like that? Why a layer one?
You need a layer one because if you're trying to coordinate ownership, permissions, transactions, intent, execution, final outcomes from any chains, you need a neutral execution environment. And, you have to design that from the ground up. There wasn't anything that was solving that problem. A bridge alone doesn't solve it. Middleware doesn't solve it. And an app chain framework doesn't solve it properly. You need a purpose-built transaction.
Yeah, you need it from the ground up. You could have easily built something like this, maybe, I guess, on ETH, or built an L2 that, that kind of did it, but then you're kind of defeating the point of what Wire is going to be anyways. Right. Yeah.
And as soon as you do that, if you don't do it at the ground level, you introduce risk. And that's what you've seen with all these, that's what you've seen with layer zero. That's what you've seen with all these bridge hacks. It's the centralization piece of all of these, or the poor infrastructure programming from the onset that is allowing these exploits. So you need to remove that third-party trust. Like, we have to stop trusting these companies and these protocols. You need to have trustless infrastructure where it is the code that you trust.
Yeah, bro, I can't tell you how many times I've used a swap or some other third-party thing outside of my MetaMask, because MetaMask doesn't even have like enough tokens in there. So you have to go to like a Relay or a Uniswap or something like that. And the transactions, not only the throughput is just extremely slow. And like, it takes it takes several minutes sometimes. And I'm like, where's my money at? And like, so you're just kind of caught in limbo. So, so that does make sense, needing to do that. So for people that don't understand, like, just in plain English, universal transaction layer. Because even looking at the brief and then the website, and Web3 loves, besides the degen side, they love acronyms. So when somebody sees UTC, they're like, what is that? So can you kind of break that down?
Yeah. The universal transaction layer is just the verbiage to explain the easiest way what we're doing. So, today users think in chains. They're like, I need this wallet on this network with this gas token using this bridge, then I can use this app, right? That's why it's not mainstream ready. What it's going to be is thinking in outcomes. Like, I want to buy, I want to swap, I want to stake, I want my agent to rebalance my treasury, I want my app to access liquidity wherever it exists. So Wire is designed to sit underneath that experience and coordinate the transaction across these chains in a trustless, secure, decentralized way. Like, for years, everyone's like, the user shouldn't care what chain they're on. Like we've heard that like quote so many times. They shouldn't need to care what the right gas token is. They shouldn't have to bridge manually. If wire works as we intend, a lot of that completely disappears in the infrastructure and hardens the current infrastructure. So we're reverse compatible. So you won't see wire as like this bright shining light, like, oh, we're going to go use the wire network. It's like, no, when you see Uniswap, when you see OpenSea, when you see any DEX, any wallet, any marketplace, when they have this new functionality, and we're like, where did that come from? It's going to be because wire is the infrastructure, the piping that gets introduced into these dApps that we all know and have already played around with, and allowed the increase in functionality.
Yeah. Well, it allows the interoperability to actually come to fruition, and you're doing it without even thinking about it. And I was sitting here, I'm like, I was wanting to look behind me because I'm like, is he looking at my questions and my notes? Because I literally had a 2-point question, which was, is Wire trying to compete with existing chains or make existing chains more usable together? And if Wire does work as intended, what does the average user have to stop thinking about? And you kind of answered part of that.
So we don't make the chains obsolete. It makes them more composable. So Ethereum was built with 14 TPS, right? And what was its goal? A great general smart contract platform, right? It's going to go do that. Solana is going to stay Solana. All these ecosystems are going to stay. This is why a great point of why we're not a bridge, or like the way to think about us. A bridge tries to take an asset from A and move it to B. And you lock it somewhere, you mint a representation, all of that has risk to it. We have abstract ownership. If your asset's on Ethereum, like if Chainlink's on Ethereum, why would you want to move it from that safe harbor? Like no one's hacked Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
You get hacked at the bridge point where you're trying to take something over to another chain.
Yeah.
So what you do is you keep it locked in on the chain of origin. You abstract the ownership into a universal settlement layer. That's what our universal transaction layer is. Like it just standardizes what every asset and liquidity looks like. It makes them all look the exact same in a trustless, decentralized way. And that way you can start interacting. Like it doesn't matter if you're trying to like aggregate liquidity from Tezos or Hedera to do like an Ethereum transaction. Everything looks the exact same.
You just don't, it's literally the same as like, okay, how does my hot water become hot because I squeeze this side or this side? You don't care how that water gets to you. You just want to make sure it's hot or it's cold. It's kind of the same way. So like, abstract ownership, can you kind of walk us through that? So if I use an Ethereum NFT or an ERC20, like how does that look through Wire? It is exactly the same as I'm doing now, just 100%, faster, or like what is the end goal there?
So yeah, that was our goal. Like you don't know, like when you're interacting with a traditional website, right? Whether it's eBay, Amazon, or if it's an app on the App Store, like you don't know what it's built on, right? Like no one cares.
Yeah.
It just works. And so that's the experience that we need to have in this industry. Like it just needs to function, and you need to be able to utilize all the great tools of blockchain. So when I say like abstract ownership, the idea is the asset can stay secured on the native chain, and Wire, the settlement layer, it coordinates the ownership rights, the permissions, the transaction outcomes. It coordinates all of that. And so that's where all the seamlessness, where everything like goes away. So think about it like this way. It's like, instead of saying move everything into Wire, it's like, let Wire understand and coordinate what you own across supported environments.
Yeah. So like for me, like I'm heavily into NFTs. You see some teams, they build on an L2 and then they end up saying, oh, well, we need to go to the mother chain and we need to go back to ETH because that's where all the attention is.
Yeah.
Would Wire solve that problem from them? Because like a lot of teams either build on an L2 or a new chain because of the hype and whatever they're doing. Maybe it's an easier chain for them to be building a game on because of the gas fees, but they also want to have exposure to ETH or Sol or whatever. They'll now be able to do that through Wire without having to leave that native chain.
Yeah, exactly. So I participated in NFTs in a major way. So that's part of the good thing about me is like I have the traditional finance background. I've participated in every aspect since 2013, whether it's DeFi summer, the NFT bull run, all of that.
So you've
And
seen
what you
it
saw,
and you went through the struggles that we all did, the last 5-6 years, if not longer.
oh yeah, it just increased my conviction, right? That what we're doing was right. So I mean, I remember minting, an NFT that the gas costs more than the NFT at one point, and then you have that project create additional NFTs later because they're trying to build a game or they're trying to do something else, and they're like, oh, it's too expensive. We're going to go to Polygon. We're going to go to an L2, and then they mint assets, over there. And then they're building this game where they have assets on different chains, and then that's where like the bridging headache comes in. And you're like, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna allow is all these companies are gonna be able to add in our infrastructure, and it's not gonna matter. Like they could have a Solana NFT with a Polygon NFT and an Ethereum NFT in a game, and you're just gonna be able to bring it all in with one wallet. Because you're going to be able to show ownership of all assets in whatever one wallet that you choose. And then from their standpoint, from the developer standpoint, it's frictionless on their end as well. So they can actually create a better experience inside the game or inside the DeFi product than they ever could, with the siloed assets that they have.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions. Like, what risk or trust assumptions should users and developers like still understand about Wire? Like developers themselves, if they're on abstract, say I'm using abstract chain as an example. Well, they already have an abstract wallet. I don't know like the full infrastructure in the background, but some people say it's complex. Like in L2 like that, is it easy for developers to like integrate, I guess, your SDK and bring Wire in and build together?
Super easy. So my CTO, my co-founder, my dev team comes from traditional software development. So huge contracts with many companies, and what we understood is you can't make everyone change their architecture. Like that's too big of even if you have the best solution, but it's like you have to change everything that you've currently built, they're not going to do that. So we had to make it like this nice plugin, this nice introduction that just allows everything to work so that they can get it up and running and give them increased functionality, which will increase revenue. It's going to harden their system. Like security, we built this thing with a mindset of universality. I thought that was going to be like the key thing. Well, with what's happened in the past, 90 days, security is a huge issue right now. And that happens to be the other problem that we solve. Like, we're not going to have these risks anymore. And so other companies adding in our piece of the component, our puzzle piece to their infrastructure actually hardens and secures like their DApp, whether it be a wallet or a marketplace, even further. So it's going to be, not only is there an increased revenue, because if you're Uniswap, right, and you're now able to do Cardano, Hedera, Polkadot transactions and swaps, like not only is it an increased revenue opportunity for them, but also like they don't have to go through the bridging aspect to aggregate and source that liquidity.
Yeah.
Like now they don't have to worry about the security side too. So it's multi-beneficial.
Now, are you guys integrating, like, I mean, are you guys building anything with AI? And I know, Anthropic had just recently let out that latest version, and then the US government said, no, we're taking it back. Like,
Yeah.
because we seen like Zcash, and they had the Opus 4.8 exposure, where somebody was able to find the mintable coins. And like, are you guys even digging into AI and seeing, and testing things with that?
Of course. And AI, and so we were doing back in like 2023 to 2025, like Wire was going to these conferences, whether it be Consensus or others, and we were throwing the biggest decentralized AI side events at these conferences. Wow. Like we already knew what was coming. Yeah. And so the things that people are talking about now, like, we and me and others were on stage talking about what was going to happen, and what this was going to look like in the future. And so we've been developing for that. Like when we built the universal transaction layer, when we started in 2020, we were just building for humans. Right. And then 2023 came, and we realized that was just AI. And then we're like, okay, agents are going to be a thing. And what are the requirements for these agents? And it just so happens that our universal transaction layer, and that the way that we handle ownership and transactions, and like the way we set up the transaction, is exactly what these AI agents are going to choose on their own. So right now, like when you do a swap, or a transaction, you are setting up the whole thing, right? And you're choosing, what path you're trying to get to. An agent's going to want cheap, fast, secure, and executional certainty. And that's what the UTL provides. So all these agents are going to be finding us and utilizing us for these transactions. They're not gonna go the bridge route, because if they have an A/B option, they're going to realize that that's slower,
smoother, easier,
more expensive.
Yeah. But like, how involved do you think agentic trading is going to be? I mean, Coinbase said that it's going to outpace human trade. Like there'll be more agents trading than humans. And they've already ramped up everything there. Like, I mean, do you see this broadening all across Web3, even on, even as far as like Bitcoin ordinals and everywhere? It's going to get massive, right?
I do. It's going to hockey stick on-chain transactions. Like think of, you're an NFT guy. Like the reason that Ethereum gas went to $250 is because there's only 14 TPS. And there's 1,000 transactions coming in at one time, right? And so everyone's like escalating.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see something similar on all of these chains, like including Solana. Like I think Solana gets saturated at some point. I think that
we're going to have Solana shutdowns again. You remember those?
I do. I think there's just not enough compute in this industry still. Like people think, why do you need another L1? Why do you need another L2? Like when this thing hits and it matures, there's not enough compute right now. Like there's not enough transactions to facilitate what these agents are going to need. They're going to be able to consume. I'll put it to you this way. Like one of my good buddies who's in decentralized AI, and he's been in crypto as long as I have. He goes and yield farms and does transactions. He's like, I do about 5 transactions per day as a human. He's like, I give my agent the same prompt, like go find the best yield. He's like, it's doing 200 transactions a day.
Wow.
So that's a 40x in transactions for the same prompt. But he's getting, a human, giving it to a human is 5 transactions, giving it to an agent is 200 transactions. I think that is probably about right. And so as these agents come online, we're talking a 40x in on-chain transactions. It's going to consume a lot of TPS.
No, that's going to be massive. Yeah, because
Mhm.
if I know that I can, but a lot of people are scared to use agents right now. You know what I mean? They don't know how to use them, and I do believe AI for some is kind of scary. But I'm glad that you guys had the vision to kind of see this ahead of time, because if agents are doing most of the trading and all of the transactions, I would say 90% of it's going to be done by agents in some form or fashion, because you're going to
Mhm.
see different chains like Solana and ETH and Abstract and Base. They're going to start, in my mind, I think they're going to start putting packages out where you can essentially just go mint an NFT. That's your agent. You put it to work. You tell it what you want. And then if that's the case, and Wire is the background network there, um, then all these agents, it's not that they need to be programmed to find Wire Network. Wire Network's just going to be the infrastructure there that's the cheapest, the fastest, and the easiest access for the agents to kind of run to.
The agent is going to look at Wire as the obvious choice to do the transaction that it wants based on the requirements that it has internally. Yeah.
Well, while we're in this conversation, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but like we're talking throughput and all that. Like, so what,
Mhm.
like, what is Wire Networks like optimal TPS? Like, if you're saying ETH was, we had high ETH and I was getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning to try and mint NFTs or do stuff because gas was so expensive. Like,
Mhm.
what is Wire Network doing to, raise the TPS?
That's fine. Me too. I was setting an alarm when I thought the cheapest gas fee was going to be, so I could get up, like do a
Yeah,
transaction, then fall back asleep. Yeah, for sure.
bro, it was
So
bad.
it was, but you learn, right?
Yeah.
Um, Wire, this is where we'll come back to the chain, like why the L1. So Wire has to start, like we've built this thing to be able to grow with the industry, which other chains have not. Like that's why Ethereum is 14 TPS and it's been that way since 2014. That's why Solana is a set amount of transactions, or Cardano, Polkadot, whatever. We are built to scale. So right now we have 10,000 universal TPS, which means
Wow.
it could be an Ethereum transaction, it can be a Solana, Polkadot, you name it. Like they're all the exact same to us. And so we're going to be able to scale that. So if we saturate the 10,000, we can increase our infrastructure vertically and horizontally, and we can go to 20,000, we can go to 40,000. Like we're going to be able to continue to step up as this industry needs it. So right now, if you aggregate all the transactions in this space, it's about 3,000 transactions per second that are
Okay.
happening across all chains. So right now, as we roll out, we're going to be able to handle all of that. So all these transactions that are going to get vacuumed up into this universal transaction layer, because it's just better, faster, cheaper, safer, right?
Yeah.
And then once you do that, once you make it better, faster, cheaper, safer, then efficiency goes up. Then you're going to want to do more transactions, right? Because you don't have to worry about things, or like new opportunities come up. And so I think naturally, once you solve infrastructure problem, you're going to see TPS rise. And then you add in these agents, which again are going to hockey stick these
Yeah.
transactions. We have to build to be able to scale as this industry saturates the current TPS. And we have the infrastructure to do that.
Yeah. Like how much onboarding, like friction can Wire, how much can you guys realistically remove? Like, um, if you have all these transactions, I mean, that's a lot of
Mhm.
transactions. If you're talking, 10, 20, 30,000 transactions, um, even like sponsored transactions, and like who pays for all these different things?
Yeah, so that's part of like what's the composability
Yeah.
of what we've done. There's so many different, like once you solve interoperability properly, and you have to go up and down the tech stack to do so. Like it's just not I can create a chain. Like we have an L1 chain. We have other protocols like UPAP, which is Universal Polymorphic Address Protocol. We have WNS, which is Wire Name Service. Like we have these protocols and the L1 all stacked together. And that's why we call it a universal transaction layer. That's why we don't lead with we're an L1. Yeah. It's not just an L1, it's a new thing. And so part of this is, how the infrastructure works. So, like who pays? Well, it depends on the application model. Sometimes the app pays, sometimes a protocol pays, sometimes a business subsidizes onboarding, sometimes a user pays directly. The point is that the experience becomes flexible, and that becomes really good for developers because they can choose the transaction fee based on the business model. Like, and I'll go to like a Web2 experience, right? Where, some people or some companies, let's call it local businesses, there's like a 2.8% Visa MasterCard fee on payments, right? Like if you go into a coffee shop and you swipe your card, that store owner is getting 2.8% charged by Visa, plus a fee, let's call it like 30 cents or whatever. Well, what happens is like they just add it to the price of the coffee, right? So instead of that's internally, like you don't know you're paying for it, it just gets like introduced. Sometimes the business model doesn't allow for that, and the company just has to keep the 2.8% plus 30 cents just to be competitive in the marketplace that allows you to, want to go purchase their product. So the point is like in the traditional world, it's flexible, like how these transaction fees work. And the same thing is going to happen in this world. Like right now, like, because we're decentralized, and we'll go back to the NFT, like let's say you own a pudgy penguin and you go to OpenSea because you're trying to do the transaction. Well, you own the product, you're selling it on a marketplace. And then, the marketplace has to like have their own fees. Like you're wanting to do your own fees. And so, but it's kind of being force fed to you in this world. The composability is going to be key for the user and for the builder.
Do you think we see a world where like a lot like the gas fees are so irrelevant, or where gas fees, do you think that's like a big part of like why people don't try and do so many transactions? Because if we do have agentic, like just full cycle trading, like the fees are going to stack up. They're going to be big. Do you think that's a big piece of why we're like, that's going to struggle to get mass adoption, is because people don't want to pay a lot of these fees?
Yeah. Well, they need to come down, right? Like, this is why when I see, Stripe coming into the game and all these traditional companies, like, they're like, oh, we're adding agent functionality. They're still trying to get their 2.8% plus 30 cents a transaction. Like what happens when your agent, like the story I gave you earlier, what happens when your agent does 200 transactions a day? It's not compatible, right?
No, it's not.
Like the compatibility is having it very cheap, very fast. Those companies will never adopt what it's going to take to be successful in this world. It has to come from a traditional or like a crypto company that understands and doesn't have to appease the shareholders of the Visa network that own the stock. You know what I mean? That like they have expectations. You need somebody who's solved the problem, built from scratch, and then built from scratch and knowing that the transaction fees need to be cheap. And that's what we did. So that's why we're able to scale, because we're going to keep the transaction fees, fractions of a penny, like forever. So the reason the transactions go up in this world is because the TPS gets saturated, and the TPS gets saturated because these networks don't build, like they can't scale their TPS. We've done that. So we can go again from 10,000
to 40.
Yeah. And just continue on from there. Like there's a path to just keep ramping that up, and so that way we can keep transactions cheap, and the agents will want to use us in perpetuity.
Yeah. Now, do you guys have safeguards in? Because like we see some chains, they may be new and they're like, oh, they're kind of pushing a transaction thing because they haven't quite raised money, or, they need to hit certain metrics. Do you guys have like safeguards in to stop spam or abuse on Wire, to where, they're not taking advantage of, this cost of transactions?
Yeah, for sure. So we're allowing companies to own part. So I'll peel back. When Ethereum did an ICO, they only allowed you to have access to a token, a utility token. Same thing with Solana, same thing with Cardano. Wire is different. So our L1, our UTL, we're allowing anyone to have ownership of a certain amount of TPS. So you actually own the network. So you get to control that. So if you're, we'll use an example of Yuga. So Yuga Labs has one of our nodes, which is, they have 400 of our universal TPS to their, how do I want to say it? They have 400 TPS that they can use for whatever they'd like. And so obviously they have Ape Chain, they have other side, they have the apes, they have all their IP, and so they get to determine what the gas fee is for their 400 TPS, which is wild. So it's like, what's the transaction fee for Wire's 10,000 TPS? It's going to be all over the place. Because whoever owns it gets to decide. So it could be zero. Yuga could be like, you're going to have a free Web 2 experience in Web 3 because we're going to subsidize with our 400 TPS and we're going to give it to our user base.
Yeah, it's not like these swipe credit card at 2%. It's whatever we decide. If we, just like OpenSea's doing right now, where they're doing the free trading for, free trading fees for the last 2 months. Kind of a different scenario. Well, that's cool.
It's a little bit of a different scenario because they're still beholden to the chain that they're built on.
Yeah.
We're talking imagine if you could have bought one of the 14 TPS of Ethereum and be able to control that one TPS or generate revenue off of it if you want.
Yeah.
That's what we did with our L1. You actually, me as the CEO of Wire, we don't own the whole chain. We've sold off millions of dollars worth of TPS that people now control and companies control, and they can use however they want. So if their business model allows them to charge 5 cents, then when you go into that DApp, it's a 5-cent fee. It could be zero. It could be $10 if their business model allows it to be. So that's how we're going to stop the spam. Is we don't control all of it. These are businesses that just like when you think of eBay. What does eBay do? They go, how many users are we going to use? How much compute do we need? And then they're going to go to AWS, right? And they're going to be like, we need to purchase this much server capacity. It's the same thing with us. You are literally we're giving access to that compute.
Yeah.
That ownership.
Yeah. And as the network grows, the TPS grows, and then they can raise the fees, and they can do, you can do what you want from that point. I mean, it's kind of like what we're seeing. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a revenue generating opportunity. Yeah. So we'll go back to Yuga. So Yuga has 400 TPS, which is 26 times the Ethereum network. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they don't use all of it, let's say between Other Side and Ape Chain and their IP, let's say they only use 100 TPS. That 300 TPS that they're not using automatically goes into the public sector, and everyone else can buy and use that TPS off them at market rate. It'll still be, fractions of a penny, but they will be it's their TPS that's being consumed. So they get the revenue off of that.
Wow.
So it's a really good business model.
Yeah, it is. It is. All right. I want to ask you some really quick rapid fire questions, just really quick answers.
Mm-hmm.
and see how you handle this. One sector Wire is most excited about: DeFi, gaming, payments, social, AI. What's your guess there?
Definitely AI. Like we're going to be able to use like the compute that's going to be necessary for that, and we're lined up perfectly for it.
Yeah. One Web3 UX problem that should have been solved years ago.
Oh, you're just lining me up here. It's the bridging problem. Like it was
There
the
we go.
best we
Yeah, I
could
thought
do
that
at
was
the
going to come
time.
out fast, bro. I thought that was going to be a quick response on that one.
No, you made me laugh because it's so obvious what the problem is.
I know. Yeah, I know. Biggest mistakes new L1s make.
They try to go to war and get get everyone over to their island, right? It's not about that. It's about bringing the communities together and figuring out how to work together in this industry rather than battling it out.
Yeah. That I can agree with. From a Wire standpoint, what's more important, liquidity or distribution?
I think liquidity is the bigger one because we're going to be able to have, it's called protocol owned liquidity. So in the UTL, we're going to have liquidity in there that everyone can tie into. So like, and utilize, whether it's a wallet, a DEX. So think about like when Hyperliquid came out, or Lighter, which is like another DEX that people have been using recently. Like they have to go out and get funding. Like when they go raise 30 million or 50 million, that's not for operating capital. That is to pre-seed the liquidity in their DEX to allow it to function properly, right? But the problem is that liquidity is just tied, it's siloed to that DEX. We're having universal liquidity to where whoever comes in and ties into our system, that liquidity is there to be able to utilize to do functionality. So I think even from an investment standpoint, like the industry changes once the universality problem is solved, because then you can all just come into like Wire's liquidity layer and you don't have to go race for that anymore. You can just build your product and just tie right in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, liquidity is the biggest problem for every chain, every NFT. It's the biggest problem in the space right now. There's not enough users. And
even on the centralized part. So I go to all these conferences, everyone talks about the same, whether you're Binance, whether you're, a DEX or anybody in between, they all talk about the liquidity problem. So that will get solved.
Yeah. Speaking of consensus, decentralization, like mainnet reality, like what trade-offs did Wire make, between performance, security, governance, decentralization? Did you try and equally distribute everything? Like, was there one thing that you wish you could go back, or that you're trying to improve more than the other?
No, we had to just do it in stages, right? So, governance was a big thing for us. Like, I didn't want to be. We built everything from a trustless, decentralized nature. That's why we fractionalized like the actual L1. Like, yeah. I don't want to be, me and my co-founder, we don't want to be like the kingmakers of this industry. Like, we just want to be a big participant. And so the way that we have governance, the way that we fractionalize the network, everything we've done has been from like a purist standpoint, because I wrote a paper a couple of years ago, and my thesis was only trustless and decentralized systems will survive in Web3. And it's because once you realize that we have to be different than where we came from, or there's no reason to come over here, you have to be a purist at that point. And then it's an engineering problem. Like, people told Elon that he can't go to Mars. Like he couldn't re-land a rocket ship, right? They couldn't make him reusable, or you can't build an electric car, or you can't put a chip into someone's brain. It wasn't magic fairy dust. They were all engineering problems that needed to get solved. We're no different. Like when people say you can't do something, it's either, is this literally magic, or is this an engineering problem? And so we're in that vein. Like we went down the path of these are just engineering problems that we needed to solve, and we got there.
Nice. Now with the L1, there's a token and it's ticker wire. What is the most important role that wire plays into the network?
Right. So you're going to be able to you utilize that for compute. So when you need to do a transaction in this universal transaction layer, that's how it's going to be streamed through. And also you're going to be able to buy TPS in the future. So I told you, that we have these nodes. Yuga has one. There's a bunch of others that have it. If you have wire token, you're gonna as we expand the network, when we go from 10,000 TPS to 20,000 TPS, the way that you gain access to that additional TPS is you can stake your wire tokens to claim the TPS. So it's not even a purchase. Like you're gonna want to own a lot of wire in the future, because if you stake it, you actually get it back, but it allows you to claim the TPS that you can use if you're a developer, you can utilize it. If you are a fund, you can whitelist it to your portfolio companies, or you can just sit there and do nothing, and it's going to go to the public resource exchange, and you're going to be generating revenue off of your portion of the TPS that's just going to be hitting your wallet as these transactions go through. So owning wire will allow you to stake to access that additional TPS in the future, which is going to be very beneficial.
For the above, so like right now, if it's 10,000, it jumps to 20, 30, 40. Like the more you go up, the more you're basically, essentially, I guess your stake and rewards are coming back to you, because if the network's growing and the transactions are growing, then your staking is growing right there alongside with it.
Exactly.
Essentially. Yeah. So if some users are not directly paying gas because transactions can be sponsored, how do sponsored usage still create value for the network and wire token?
Right. Because they're locked up, like that, that compute gets locked up. So if they're being sponsored, that company, that organization, or that user still had to purchase the wire token and stake and lock it up to gain access to that TPS.
Yeah.
So once they have that, like they are able to do what they want with it. But that's not going to be for everything. There's going to be, if there's 1,000 dApps created on wire or enabled with wire, not all of them have a node.
Yeah.
Like everything that happens like after we launch, a lot of those aren't going to have a node. And so when that occurs, that transaction fee is going to need to be paid for. And so the wire token will continue to, as the ecosystem grows, we have a set amount, we have 1 billion total supply, like that, that'll be consumed as more dApps come online and more transactions come through.
Yeah. So like right now you can go to wire.network and you can buy wire right now prior to mainnet launch. Is this, I mean, this is pretty much the easiest way to get yourself in the door before, everyone.
Yeah. So right now you can go to, there's two ways. So again, me coming from traditional finance, I like optionality. And so if you want to risk your capital, which is like, essentially like an ICO type mechanism, you can go to a wire.network and you can directly purchase the token at the current tranche level, which is it's in like the 40 cent range right now. And you can do that with Ethereum or Solana. But that's if you want to risk your capital. If you want to just stake, if you have Ethereum or Solana, you can stake your Ethereum or Solana, and that's yours. Like you don't lose that. That's your principal. What happens is you stake it, And then we create validators on Ethereum and Solana. And so the yield from that gets pointed to Wire. So if you put in 100 ETH, the yield that generates off of that is giving you Wire tokens.
Oh, wow.
As reward. And then whenever you want to pull out your 100 ETH, you can. Like it's always yours.
Yeah.
It's just you're pointing the yield to us, and then in return for the yield, we're giving you Wire tokens, and that actually fills up that universal liquidity pool that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The yield that's coming off of that, or when you purchase Wire tokens directly, that doesn't come to me as the CEO of Wire to just go spend however I want. That literally is self-funding the universal liquidity pool that you're going to be utilizing as a user. So it's actually closed circle. Like you buy the token, you're increasing the liquidity at the same time for yourself and for everyone else. And yeah, so I can't pay salary off of that or marketing. That is literally just going to continue to fill up that universal liquidity pool and give everyone a better experience, less slippage, all of those things that you get from low liquidity environments. It's going to continue to get better and better over time.
Now, if I go do that and then say if I had 100 ETH and I did go stake that and I'm earning back Wire token, can I then withdraw that Wire token and restake that in another pool? Or is that Wire that I'm earning in that same thing earning on top of that?
So the Wire that you're getting, there's a whole liquid staking protocol that's built into this system. Yep. And so, yeah, you will be, if you want, you will be able to take that Wire and then match it and go into an additional, liquidity pool that will give you more yield. So there is pin action, and you are able to double dip on that. I would call we're calling this the LCO, liquidity creation offering.
Yeah,
that's what this mechanism is. And I would just, if people have dealt with Lido or these other, validator protocols that give you yield, we essentially created a universal version of that allows us to, again, pre-seed that liquidity into our layer.
Nice. So post TGE, post mainnet launch, what does a healthy Wire even look like? Like, what do you see for the token? What is success in your mind beyond the tech of what Wire does as a healthy ecosystem token?
You're asking, like, where do I see the Wire token going?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously up, and I know you got to be careful and how you answer that. But like, I mean, obviously every founder wants to see every part of their brand be successful. Do we see different future versions of this liquidity staking pools and things like that, and new events coming upon it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer it this way. There's been very, very few key innovations in this space, like times where something has came out where you're just like, this changes the game. Like, obviously Bitcoin changed digital cash. Obviously Ethereum coming out and putting smart contracts on chain, you're like, oh, that's a big deal. When Uniswap came out with automated market making, like, that's a big deal. Like, you've seen Hyperliquid's done a good job, like, pushing the industry forward a bit. I think this is the most consequential piece of architecture that this industry has seen in many years. And the utility of the Wire token and of the universal transaction layer, I don't think can be understated. And so with that being the case, I think that as this comes out and everyone understands it, everyone starts utilizing it, I expect Wire to be up there with the biggest names in the industry, just based off of the utility and value that it's providing to this industry. I think it's going to be a household name that this industry recognizes, along with the Ethereum, Solana, USDC, those type of names.
Yeah, and that'll be massive. And that was one of my questions, is like the 2 to 3 year vision. Where will Wire stand? And if it's standing next to USDC, and that's in Circle, and just a lot of these big platforms, that's going to be massive.
I anticipate if we've built what we've built, which we have, and it works as intended, which it will, I anticipate that north of 90% of all on-chain transactions are coming through this new financial rail, and utilizing RL1, our token. And I'll give you an example of why that is my thought process. Like, if you go back to the traditional financial system, you had banks and you had brick and mortar retail and you had cash, right? And it was very inefficient. Like, you'd have to go, you go to the bank, you'd withdraw money for the week, whatever you thought you needed. And then if you spent more than you thought, you had to go back to the bank, right? And then you had to go to retail. And what the industry realized is, like, they needed a new layer to be introduced between the retail and between the banks. And that's where the credit and debit card system came. And so the credit and debit card system came and said, here, you just need to swipe this. It does all the process. Like, you don't have to go to the bank anymore. And then not only that, you can go fly to France. And if you want to buy a coffee there, that store owner is going to get now it's the euro, but even if we go back far enough, it was the franc, right? They're going to get franc or euro. You use the US dollar. And that whole process happens within this new financial control plane. And so the efficiency of that just, went through the roof. And now everyone uses that system. That's how I view where our industry is. The banks are the networks, right? That's where the assets are held. Retail is still retail. And these bridges, it was the best we could do at the time. Like, sometimes in early, when you have a new technology, you have to do things that maybe are a little bit of patchwork, right? They're not the ideal scenario, but there's so much demand that you just figure it out and be like, here are the risks. You guys can deal with it. Like, I'll let you know what the risks are. And then if you still want to participate, like, I'm going to give you this functionality. Bridges were the best we could do. But what I realized was, like, you need a new financial control plane, like a Visa network, in between the banks, the networks, and retail, that coordinates, that standardizes, that allows the same thing to happen in the traditional financial world to happen in our industry, where you don't have these tangled wires going everywhere. It's inefficient, it's insecure. You have this new layer that just solves a ton of problems. That's the way you need to think about Wire's UTL. Like, it is just going to be in between and make this industry more efficient. And when more efficiency comes in, value of everything goes up.
Yeah, and it just makes the whole entire user experience that much better. All right, as we close it up, is there a place besides the website? You guys are in testnet. Are there things that users or new users, people can go to get involved with Wire Network?
Yeah, so obviously the website's a big one, wire.network. We have our social, on X, we're at Wire Network. And so you can participate in the test net. Mainnet will be this year. So this isn't like something that we just started. Like, this is over 5 years of development to solve this problem. And so, as we get into launch, like, you can, there's node opportunities. You can get Wire directly. You can start building, or honestly, you can start, if whatever gap you have, if there's things that you utilize that you're going to want this functionality, you can start sending messages to these dApps and letting them know that this is now, like, this new technology is out that's going to help them, and get them involved with our dev team, and we can help them get set up for the future.
Nice. So yeah, no chain, doesn't matter where it is, who's building. Wire Network's going to be the infrastructure in the background to power it all. Yeah, it's definitely exciting because I'm so tired of having to move and bridge and swap, and it's my swaps tab on my computer. It's like 8 or 9 different swaps, and just having to do so many different things, and just to be able to click a few buttons and have everything done that I want to be done. It's just a few transactions rather than having to go through painstaking, just time. It's not painstaking, but it's time consuming, and it shouldn't be that. It should be fast, smooth, and really efficient. So,
And you
I
maintain custody at all times. Like
exactly.
it is trustless. You own your assets. Even when you're doing a cross-chain transaction, like you are in full control. You never have to trust Wire. We are chain agnostic. We have built the infrastructure, so you don't have to trust us. Yeah. It just works.
Exactly. Well, Ken, this has been good. Was there anything that we did not touch on with Wire? I mean, I think we kind of ran through and covered most of it.
No, I think we did you did a great job of walking through everything. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I hope to have you guys back on soon, maybe even as we get close to mainnet launch or post launch, to see, I want to see where that TPS is at. I want to see how fast that rises and how quick we get to 20,000 and 30,000. And obviously the higher, the better, because that means the more transactions are happening, and more demand is out there in the space. And it's a tough time. People might even ask you, like, we're like in a bear. Why are you even trying to, launch in a bear? And it's, if you're building, in my mind, I've always said it, if you have a quality product with a great team and a strong community, and it's a product people need and use, it doesn't matter what time of the market it is. It's the product that's going to speak for itself. And it sounds like Wire is going to be that.
Look at Hyperliquid right now, right?
Yeah.
It's a bear market, and look what it's doing. Why? Yeah. It has great utility. Like everyone's using it. Like it doesn't matter if it's a bear. Like everyone looks at the crypto side. Like this is blockchain infrastructure that everyone's going to use. Yeah. The utility of it will drive the demand.
Yep, exactly. And everybody's integrating Hyperliquid, which will be the same thing that they're doing with Wire Network. And
Hyperliquid is going to integrate with Wire. That's what's going to happen. Like they're going to want even deeper liquidity. That's the easy way. Like we're coming up underneath everyone and being like, here's a better. It doesn't matter if you're winning or not. We're going to provide value to you with more liquidity, with a better experience, all of that. And so I anticipate every name that everyone thinks of, like their favorite DApp. There's a compelling case for every single one of them to add our infrastructure in as we launch.
Yeah, no, this is great. Yeah. And like I said, I can't wait to catch back up as you launch. I know there's no time frames on that yet, but you did say this year. So looking forward to that as well. And yeah, I think that's a wrap. I appreciate your time, Ken. I know it's valuable. Hopefully the viewers got some good takes, and some good insight, and get on Wire Network's website. They jump in and, get involved with the testnet and on the faucet. I'm going to look into it some more, especially on the staking side, because being early, and then you mentioned nodes. I mean, there's a lot there that resonates with some things that I've done in the past. And there's no better time than being early. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we have over 60 companies already signed up.
Wow.
That are going to be utilizing Wire's UTL at launch. So it's growing every day. So this isn't like we're starting from scratch. Like the industry already has transactions. Yep. So that's going to get absorbed. And we have other companies and new companies coming in because of what our technology allows. They're like, our business model finally works. We can now build in a Web3 environment. And so that's all coming online. So yeah, there's a lot of the groundswell is already happening behind us.
Nice. Yeah, it's exciting, man. And I know a lot of chains, a lot of brands, a lot of games that need Wire. because right now they're kind of busted a little bit. So, and they need some help. So, one last question though: if somebody does have a brand or a project they're working on, how do they get the outreach to get Wire Network integrated into their dApps or chain?
Yeah, I mean, right on the website, there's a contact us.
Okay.
I'm on X at Ken DeCross. You can message us on X at wire.network or at Wire Network. If you reach out, like we'll get you involved and get you set up for success. Like I would love to see that, with Yuga, Bored Apes are going to be a universal NFT.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I see for everything else. Like you're going to have universal NFTs, you're going to have universal assets, you're going to have a universal identity. So you can take one identity, let's say an Ethereum address, and we are going to derive what your address should be on every type of chain. So you're only going to need one address now. That's going to be your universal identity, and that's why agents are going to love this, because they don't need to go create a Solana address, an Ethereum address, a Polkadot address, and have all of this, have all these connected. It's literally one address that is universal that handles every chain transaction.
Yeah, that's exciting, man. Yeah, and I was surprised to even hear you say Yuga right off the rip like that. Mm-hmm. So shows that you guys are working with big names, big people in the space, and Figgy and them are doing great over there anyways with working some of the best brands in Web3 and crypto. So
they are. I think they're going to do great in the future.
Oh yeah. It's just up only. So well, Ken, I appreciate you coming in. I look forward to chatting with you again soon. And everyone that has watched today or that does rewatch back on the replay, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments of the stream or reach out to Ken and his team, and they will get you taken care of. But until the next time, we will be back with another Reality Check Founder Series, hopefully next week. Ken, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate your time. And everyone have a fantastic day.
Cheers, man. Thank you.